Welcome to the second part of scientific notation, where we wanted to cover how to use scientific notation and your calculator. So right now I have a calculator, great scientific calculator, simple, does everything we need, the TI 30XA. This calculator does scientific notation real nicely. It's all you need and it's relatively cheap. You can get it at most stores. Okay, so you'll notice first of all on the slide that when we display a number in scientific notation on a calculator, it looks a little different. 6.022, then there's an E to the 23 when you look at this slide. The E here means times 10. So this is a number that's being displayed in scientific notation. This is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd power. So let's cover a couple things here. Okay. First of all, get a calculator that can do scientific notation. You need one. There's no way you can get by this class without it. Second of all, you need to practice on how to do it, be familiar with what it looks like so that you know how to use it. I've seen so many mistakes on quizzes and exams where you just didn't use your calculator correctly, and that's a shame. So let's learn how to use our calculators correctly. Okay, so again, here's a really big number. This is 5.2 with 8 zeros after it. So when we turn this into scientific notation, you can see here it's got 5.2 times 10 to the 10th. Actually, it has 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so when we move that decimal place over, 5.2 times 10 to the minus 10. Now notice here, in scientific notation, 5.2 E10 on the calculator. That means 5.2 times 10 to the 10th. Here's a small one, so 0.000, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros, and then a 5. So again, when we move that decimal over to get our number between 1 and 10 here, 5.2, it's times 10 to the minus 10th. So notice there's a negative there in front. Okay, so the E means times 10. That's the important thing. Now, look at the calculator on the other screen here, and let me show you how to put it in. Okay, so let's say we wanted to enter 5.2 times 10 to the minus 10th. Every calculator should have a button, usually labeled EE. So right here on this calculator, it's labeled EE. That's the times 10 button. So if I want to enter 5.2 times 10 to the 10th, I put in 5.2, just put in the number, then I push this button. Now notice it gave me a power here. So pushing that button automatically puts in the times 10. Now on this particular calculator, it's not showing the times 10. So I would put in 10 here. So 5.2 times 10 raised to the 10th power. Now you can hit equals, and it doesn't do anything on this particular calculator. Sometimes you put equals, it turns it into a decimal number. So let's just try another one real fast. Let's do 5.3 times 10 to the second. So 5.3 times 10 to the second. See, that time when I hit equals, it showed me the number 530. Okay, let's do the negative one. Oops, clear. 5.2 times 10. So whenever I push that button, I always say times 10 in my head. E times 10. So the times 10 is there, it's just not showing. Now if I want to put a negative power, I use the plus minus button right here. Plus minus. Okay, so this is now 5.2 times 10 to the minus 10. Okay. Let's show a little bit different one. Let's say I want to have 2 to the minus second. 2 times 10 to the minus second power. Now when I hit equals, see, it turns it into 0.02. Okay. So it's just showing that you can go back and forth there. For the smaller ones, the bigger ones, it won't do that because there's not enough decimal places on the face of the calculator. Okay, so let's just go forward here on the slide. Okay, you can, on larger calculators, if you look at this slide here, if you have a more fancy calculator, this is a TI-84, you can enter numbers like this. 2.16 times 10 raised to the third power. I do not recommend doing that. Okay, so on this calculator, you could do that too. You could say, let's say I want to put this exact number here on this slide. 1,260 in scientific notation. 1.2 times 10, and then we need the raised power, which is right there, raised to the third power. Hit equal, you can see we do not get, well, wait, maybe I put it in wrong. Let's try this again. 1.26 times 10 raised to the third power, 1260. So you can see there I got the correct number, doing it the same way they do on the slide. That is a very bad way to do it. I do not recommend that at all. It will get you into serious trouble when we start to do calculations. Okay, so again, I recommend always using scientific notation, like in this case, 1.26 times 10 to the third. Again, same number. If you do this the long way, 1.26 times 10 to the third power, you have to absolutely put this number in parentheses when you're doing calculations. So for example, on this calculator, I would do parentheses 1.26 times 10 raised to the second power in parentheses, and see that put it, that did that calculation and gave us the number. I did to the second. That's why this is only 126. Okay, again, I do not recommend doing that. Do not do it that way. You can get into serious trouble. Okay. And the reason why is because of the calculations, and the order of operations is really important. So what I wanted to show you here was this calculation where we do 4.2 times 10 to the fourth times 2.9 times 10 to the ninth. Okay, so if we do that calculation with scientific notation on our calculator, 4.2, and then I'm going to use the EE button, that means times 10 to the fourth. Now, because I use the scientific notation button, the calculator knows that that is all one number, so I don't have to put parentheses around it or anything. Just take that number, now that I put it in, I'm going to say times, and now notice it turned that into a decimal number because the calculator could hold that many places. Okay, times 2.9, again hit the EE button, EE, times 10, and this is to the ninth power. Okay, so now I have that number in, I hit equals, and see here it gave me a number in scientific notation, 1.218 times 10 to the 14th power. Okay, so that's, again, giving this number, this answer in scientific notation. Okay, that was just one practice problem. Really, the best way to learn doing this is by practicing, and it's calculator specific, so you have to learn for your particular calculator. So again, if you look in your textbook on Chapter 1, Section 1.4, pages 15 and 16, they actually show you how to use your calculator, just like I did. There are pictures of calculators. If you can't find it or figure it out, Google what your calculator model is and scientific notation. So Texas Instruments TI-85 scientific notation. You will find information on how to do that. And again, here's a YouTube video. Again, this is, I'll just click on this to show you. This is a YouTube video that has more practice problems, again, on how to do scientific notation with your calculator. And you can see they're going to walk through how to do those. And here they're using the EXP button, which is sometimes how it's labeled, or the EE button. Okay. So lots of opportunities to get help. Once you've practiced some problems, if you're not getting the right answers, just go ahead and bring your calculator in. We should bring your calculator anyway, but bring it into class, and I will help you specifically with those, your calculator, and show you how to do it. Practice, practice, practice. I'm going to show you one last trick here to end it off. Most calculators that have scientific notation capability also have scientific notation mode. And that can be useful for turning numbers back and forth into scientific notation. So let's say I have 0.000125, and I want to turn that into scientific notation. We learned on the last slide I can count over 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So this would be 1.25 times 10 to the minus 4. Well, notice how this psi here is in green and it's above the key. That means it's a second function. If I want to just turn this into scientific notation, I can push the second button and push the scientific notation button. See, it automatically turned it into 1.25 times 10 to the minus 4. And see here it says psi, that means I'm in scientific notation function. That means that whenever I do any calculations times 2, it's going to always give my report in scientific notation. So when you're in this mode, the number is always scientific notation. To get out of that mode, you go back to the FLO, flow. So if I go second flow, it turns that number back into a decimal. And notice that psi notation is gone there. So nice little trick once you get comfortable with scientific notation using the EE button. The flow and the psi modes allow you to convert back and forth. Final thing, I just wanted to show you some other calculators have the scientific notation button as the second function here. So sometimes they're the second function there. So you'd have to push second EE to use that one. Here's the scientific function there. Again, it's in the second one there to switch into scientific notation. Finally, I wanted to note most calculators have a 10 to the x button above the log button. Do not use that button. That is not scientific notation. That's taking 10 raised to a certain power. It's an anti-log button. There is a way to do it, but it's complicated, and again, I do not recommend doing that. Learn how to use your EE button, your scientific notation button on your particular calculator. And if you have any questions, make sure you ask as soon as possible so that you can do the calculations. Okay, great.